Guys, welcome on into Three Bold Takes and our off-season coverage. This is the first one of many in the 2025 off-season. I still cannot believe that we're in 2025, counting down the days until the 2025 college football season. But we've got some exciting news in the world of hires, coordinators, coaches, things of that nature. If you're an Alabama fan, Alabama has hired Ryan Grubb as offensive coordinator for the second stint in Tuscaloosa. As you may know, he originally came to Alabama with DeBoer from Washington, but took a job with the Seahawks shortly after, and now he is back in Tuscaloosa. Quinn, let's send it over to you. What does this mean moving forward for Alabama?
Yeah, the Ryan Grubb hire, I think obviously you got to have a little bit of optimism about it. I mean, it's the guy that you wanted last offseason that you thought you had and then you missed out on him. I mean, there were moments during the season. I think Sheridan made some questionable calls, but I'm not as low on him as other people. So I think it's a good thing that he's staying around on the staff. And then again, you get the guy you wanted to begin with. Ultimately, I think Alabama last year was a kind of a holdover year because we witnessed something kind of unprecedented where you have a coach come in and he has to deal with a 30-day, I believe it was a 30-day transfer window the moment that Saban had retired, that he did not have a window for himself to recover talent as talent was going out the door. I think that took a serious hit on this roster for this past season. And then I think inconsistency at the quarterback position really hurt him as well. So, you look at 2025, I think the addition of Grubb plus the implementation of a more DeBoer style system anyway, and more buy-in from DeBoer style players, I think it's got to give you a lot of optimism if you're an Alabama fan for 2025. I mean, I don't see how this doesn't, to be honest with you.
I didn't pay a whole lot of attention as Ryan Grubb was in at the Seahawks. But kind of like what Quinn mentioned, you get him back. This is the guy who you wanted last year. The biggest thing, he kind of hit on Sheridan still being there, but you also keep Jamarcus Shepard on the other end too. You keep both of the guys that were your offense coordinators this past year. And a lot of people are going to look at this and say, well, man, he failed as an offensive coordinator in the NFL. He just got fired. Why would we want him? Some guys, a game just doesn't translate at one level. Some NFL coaches don't do well at the college level and vice versa. So that's the big thing there. One thing that I noticed with Ryan Grubb for the Seahawks, though, reading up on him, was they were 8-1 when they ran the ball 20 times a game, 2-6 when they ran less than that. And the biggest problem with Grubb for the Seahawks is that he did abandon the run too often. And so that's my only one big concern here for Alabama. You already saw last year that they abandoned the run most of the time. This is why Justice Haynes has transferred out. And you have capable running backs that probably could be in Heisman hopefuls if they were given the ball and the rock a lot more than they were this past year. So I think that's the biggest thing is when he comes in, has he learned from that? Because if you go to Washington, if you look at his stint with DeBoer at Washington, name me a running back that played for Washington. It's really hard to do that because what did they do? They threw to their receivers. They had a Heisman hopeful quarterback in Michael Penix. It's just that's their spread West Coast offense that doesn't primarily use their running backs unless it's in the passing game.
Well, let me ask you this real quick, Freddie, because Chase brings this up, and I know you're probably excited about the hire, so I wanted to propose this to you. Do you think there's any validity to the concern that making a hire like this that's so pass oriented at a school who really builds their foundation on running game through the past, and it's like the identity that the fan base prides themselves on? Do you think it can work?
Yeah, I don't think Alabama's identity is running the ball anymore. I think you look at the transition of quarterbacks starting with, Mac Jones primarily probably, where he had, Devontae Smith had all these wide receivers, and that's when it kind of started. He's slinging the ball 30, 40 times a game almost. And from then on, there's Tua, there's Bryce Young, there's all these different quarterbacks that can run the ball, but the reason why they were Heisman hopefuls is because we were slinging the rock. And I think that is what what it's going to take moving forward. I love the run game. Like you said, like that's the identity of Alabama football is running the ball, having beefy offensive linemen and controlling the line of scrimmage on defense. We've started to see a shift on the defensive side where even going back the past 4 or 5 years, it's been a bend don't break defense where the secondary leads the charge more so than the D line. And I think that's what's coming and or has come and will continue to come on the offensive side is a very pass heavy offense. And, I mean, if you look at the success that they had together at Washington, why can't they have that at Alabama? Like with the quarterbacks that are coming in or that's already there, you can kind of start implementing this offense now. So honestly, I think it's better off that Grubb came now and not last year so that Milroe didn't throw it 40 times a game. I think that would have led to an even more downfall for Alabama and, his draft stock tumbling even more. So I think it's a great hire. I think it's a great time. You got Russell coming in, who is the highest rated recruit Alabama's ever had. Keep that in mind of all the greats that Alabama has had. So I think it's going to be interesting. And there's a quarterback battle going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's something, and you mentioned it well, Freddie, because I feel like as a fan perspective and as an amateur podcaster perspective, from a fan perspective, I'm still stuck in 2014 where I think we can run the ball. We have 3 guys that could easily post 1,000 yards in the backfield. But it's just not simply that. Like Justice Haynes and Jay Miller, don't get me wrong, they are wonderful running backs. I think they could easily eclipse 1,000 yards. But like you mentioned, we're just not that way anymore. It's very hard to grasp for Alabama football that, hey, we're going to put up 30 passes a game, 40 passes a game and win these games. And it's not, hey, we're going to give it to a Derrick Henry, Eddie Lacy, Mark Ingram for 25, 30 carries a game and really just run it down their throats the whole time. So it is a different aspect. But I do think Grubb does just furthermore that this is going to be a straight passing attack. So.
Yeah, which, hey, in the way that college football is going, that's probably a good thing. The last thing you want to do is be stuck in the past. And you guys mentioned how some coaches don't make it in the pros. You look at the greatest college football coach in the history of the game, didn't make it in the pros. So I think you have to learn that. And maybe this is Grubb's way of learning that he's not quite ready for the pros and that he should stay in college, which we're excited for. It's a familiar face for DeBoer. I think he's comfortable with him. So definitely looking forward to it. Guys, let us know down below what you think. Is this a good hire? Is this a bad hire? Hopefully nobody thinks it's a bad hire, but who knows? Excited to see what they can cook up heading into 2025. DeBoer already said that this year feels different. Feels different for the coaching staff, the players that are there. So hype starting to build. Year 1 is under his belt. Year 2 is when you tend to take that step forward. That's what needs to happen down in Tuscaloosa. Thanks for watching 3 Bold Takes. We will see you guys next time.